Hi, my name is David Zwaska.
Hi, I'm Aurelija Fitzpatrick.
Today we're going to be talking about mediation and parenting coordinators.
Mediation is an opportunity for parties to sit down with a third party neutral and try to reach an agreement about the issues that they have in dispute. That's the biggest difference between mediation and courtroom litigation. In litigation, if there's not an agreement, it's ultimately the judge who decides the outcome of a case. However, in mediation, the parties get the opportunity to express themselves and reach an agreement as to how they're going to raise their children, divide up their assets, and determine what the next phase of their life is going to look like. It's a better option in many cases because people ultimately want to control their own destiny. They want to decide what happens with their own finances. They want to raise the children in the way that they deem fit, not the way that a court ultimately decides. And so this gives them the opportunity to really maintain a lot of that control.
So I'm thinking of a case I had where the father had a very unusual work schedule, and the mother had a very kind of traditional work schedule. And they wanted kind of a shared parenting time schedule, but it wasn't going to fit into one of the kind of cookie cutter parenting time schedules. So mediation was perfect for them because they got to sit down and talk about all of their needs and the children's needs, and they were able to come up with a very customized schedule. That's the type of thing that's perfect for mediation. Um, Litigation would not be great for that because honestly, the judge doesn't have time to deal with the nitty gritty of that. The judges are dealing with so many other issues that they don't have the time or bandwidth to really sit down and help customize a schedule like that. And the people in mine, they went to mediation and did come up with a full agreement, sitting down with a good mediator.
Court systems are not the most effective ways of resolving all disputes, and accordingly, I decided to expand my practice to include parenting coordination and mediation to allow parties and families to have an alternative means to resolve their family law disputes.
So, a parenting coordinator is a relatively new role, and it's tremendously helpful for families. So, as I've talked about before, the court dockets are extremely full. There's not a lot of time for judges or guardian ad litems to make decisions. A parenting coordinator is outside of the court process. So, a parenting coordinator is someone that can work with each of the parties and try to resolve parenting issues. Typical ones are extracurricular activities, holiday schedules, pick up and drop off times, big and small issues, but the kind of issues that can be resolved by someone that's trained and can interpret the court orders for the parents. Also, there's a benefit to parenting coordinating where parents are just paying one private attorney for the parenting coordinating versus each person paying their own attorney and then going to court. And under the new Supreme Court rule, the recommendations of the parenting coordinator are binding on the parties. So that can be tremendously helpful because oftentimes parents have issues that are time sensitive. For instance, needing to enroll a child in a program where the deadline is coming up in 2 weeks. There's not enough time to file a motion with the court, wait for a chance to meet with the judge, and it's not an emergency either. So that's a perfect issue where you could take it to a parenting coordinator. The parenting coordinator could make a binding recommendation based on that. As attorneys, we try to draft parenting agreements that account for future situations, but we can't account for everything. And so invariably something will come up and the parents will have an issue where the language of the allocation judgment doesn't account for it. And in that situation, a parenting coordinator can come in and talk with each party and then make a recommendation for a path forward.
Additional things that a parenting coordinator can work on is helping the parties improve their communication techniques and make referrals for outside resources that can help the parties, whether that be to have a substance abuse evaluation, go to perhaps a co-parenting therapist, or do things that can improve the parties' co-parenting relationship. Being a parenting coordinator and a mediator also helps me in my practice representing litigants as well. One of the main skills that you learn and you utilize as a parenting coordinator or mediator is dispute resolution, and that's a skill that carries through any kind of litigation that you're doing. If you're going to have successful outcomes for your client, you need to understand the other side's perspective and where they're coming from so you can anticipate what their position in a case is going to be and respond accordingly. And having the opportunity to work as a parenting coordinator and a mediator, it gives you more experience in seeing a holistic approach to a case and how both sides view a situation.
So I do see mediation and parenting coordinating really having a huge role in family law. One of the things right now that a lot of our clients are experiencing is the huge wait times with their court cases. Judges, if a judge is out and misses a court date, you could wait another month or two for that court date. If your case needs to go to trial, you could be waiting a year for that trial. So I see a lot of people trying to pursue mediation much more than they are now. Also, parenting coordinating, same thing. If people get divorced or they have a parentage case and they get their allocation judgment, if there's issues that come up afterwards, I see a parenting coordinator being involved versus them hiring private attorneys and going back to court. We've seen in many of our cases right now, we have been appointing a parenting coordinator at the end so that if any issues come up, they can immediately go to that parenting coordinator. And that has given clients a huge peace of mind because one of the biggest questions we get is, okay, I've got this court order, but what if my ex or the other parent doesn't follow it? What do I do? And traditionally the answer would have been, well, you can go to mediation, but if that's not successful, you have to come back to court. It takes so much time, takes so much money. And so a parenting coordinator kind of cuts through that because now you have a parenting coordinator in place. If a dispute comes up, the parenting coordinator can deal with it usually within 48 hours, and whatever their recommendation is going to be binding on the parties.
I'm Aurelija Fitzpatrick. Thank you for watching. If what we talked about today is something that is interesting to you or maybe beneficial to your case, please give us a call at the number on the screen.